Hi everyone, this is Ashley with Sublime Review. Thank you so much for checking out my channel and thank you for checking out my Malignant review. This movie was brought to us by producer and director James Wan. He brought us the Conjuring series, the Insidious, and Saw series as well. And I enjoy all of those series, particularly The Conjuring. Love them, particularly 1 and 2. I've noticed a pattern with him. This is kind of like a little side thing. I noticed a pattern with him where he directs the first two movies of each of those franchises. I believe he directed Insidious too. Um, yeah, I believe that he did. But correct me if I'm wrong on that. But he directs the first few movies of these franchises, and then he hands them off to his director friends, and they have not always ended up well. James Wan, I'm just saying. The Conjuring 3, one of my most anticipated films from last year that was pushed to this year, did not live up to the hype. So, sir. But anyway, it has been, I think, quite a while since he has released a horror movie. The last one probably being The Conjuring 2, which came out back in 2016. So, I was gung ho for Malignant. I couldn't wait for it to come out. And I have to say, with this movie, it was definitely a roller coaster ride. I'm going to talk to you about why in a moment. Um, First off, though, let me give you the synopsis of the movie. It says, paralyzed by fear from shocking visions, a woman's torment worsens as she discovers her waking dreams are terrifying realities. I also have to say that there's an adversary in this movie as well that basically like haunts her. Haunt isn't the right word, but that she is constantly going up against in this movie, and it's with that adversary that a lot of this movie just gives us the weirdness that I was not expecting. So, what do I mean by this movie being like a roller coaster ride? Um, this movie is very genre bending. It has horror elements, thriller elements, suspense, action, sci-fi. All of those mixed into one. When you first start out, it gives me like full on sci-fi vibes, and that's like for the first 5-10 minutes, and I was not expecting it. And then after that, it goes into like your standard horror movie where this woman um, is basically, where someone breaks inside our main character's house, played by Annabelle Wallis. She plays Madison. So someone breaks into Madison's house, and we're trying to figure out like who this actual person is. Like we don't know if it's actual. We don't actually know if it's a person or if it's some evil entity or not. And that's kind of where the mystery is. That's where all the mystery is. I actually forgot to include that as part of the genre that is involved in this movie. Mystery is a part of it as well, as we try to figure out who this adversary is. So, we kind of get into like our standard horror where, it's very creepy. We got some jump scares, all of that. And as the story like slowly starts to evolve, it becomes more. It becomes it gains like this weird action like quality to it, which I was not expecting. It becomes more suspenseful, thriller, a little bit less of the horror, but still maintaining like a very eerie, chilling feel to it. Like even when the adversary is somewhat revealed, I am at the edge of my seats because I'm scared for all of the other characters. So I have to give kudos to James Wan that even as he's experimenting with different genres in this movie, he maintains like that fear factor throughout the whole movie, I think. When our adversary is revealed, or even not even when it's revealed, like I say like during the second half of this movie, we go from like that typical horror movie into a kind of campy horror movie. And that is the part where I think it can throw audiences off because people may not necessarily expect that. Like the villain, the way that some scenes are shot, they're like over exaggerated. like some of the acting is a little weird too as well. Like all of the aspects that you expect from like a campy movie from like the 70s or 80s become like start to appear in this movie during like the latter half of it. And I was here for all of it. I loved it, especially when we finally got a reveal of the adversary. I'm like, wow, like, you know, because you just don't see it nowadays in these modern like horror movies. Like a lot of horror movies are either just straight up your typical scary movie, or they're like social commentary movies. Like Jordan Peele. Although Jordan Peele is my top favorite horror director. Do not get me wrong on that. But a lot of horror movies are kind of copying off of that Jordan Peele style. So you get like a mix of those two films. This is something new. Like James Wan is actually let me put it this way. He's bringing back something that was old and turning it and making it into something new. And I loved it. Now, because of that change, how he flips the script here in this movie, you may not end up liking it. So you really have to come into this movie with an open mind. Other things that like really stood out to me were the visuals. I love like how he shot some scenes. I don't want to spoil anything too much, but there's like this great, well, do I want to like spoil some of the shots? Because he only does some shots once. Like there are some that he just doesn't repeat. So I'll just leave it to you to just watch it so you can kind of see what he does here. I love the color schemes. Like, I don't know what it is about movies these days, but they're using like these very bright neon colors, purples, bright reds, oranges, blues. And I love the color scheming in this movie, especially once Madison starts getting into her visions. Like, that's when he really starts to play around with the visual effects. Like we get like smoky visuals when she goes into a vision, and the coloring changes, the color style changes or I say coloring, I mean lighting. The lighting changes when she goes into these visions and stuff, and I really like that. I like all aspects of it because it felt like an old school horror movie. Everything that was involved with it, from the lighting to the effects that he took to the actual adversary and the reveal around that adversary, that all contributed to that campy style. And I appreciated it all. Some things that were a little weird and off to me were the characters themselves, and it's hard for me to tell what was intentional and what wasn't. Like, what was a flaw due to the script or the character, or due to the actor's portrayal of the characters. So I do like Annabelle Wallis as Madison. She kind of portrays this. She does a good job of balancing herself out as this kind of quiet character who is plagued by something horrifying, but who also is just trying her hardest to survive it. I think she does a really good job in this. Okay, there's Maddie Hasson as Sydney Lake. That's her sister. I didn't really care for this character at first. I have to say that I kind of felt that about a few of the characters here. But slowly I like that they gave her more to do. She kind of became a detective-like character. She really started to delve into the adversary's past. Like, I don't want to spoil too much. Like, I don't want to spoil anything, so I have to be really careful about what I say. But she gains like this detective-like quality, and that made me appreciate her more by the end, so that I actually cared about what happened to her character. George Young as Detective Kekoya Shaw. I did not like his character at first. It's weird. His acting was just like so off. Like, sometimes I felt like this dude forgot he was acting. It felt like he was just standing there, just a part of the scene. I'm like, dude, why are you here? But he redeems himself like midway through the movie, like towards the end of the second act, early third act, where he has like this midway. He has like this amazing chase scene, and during that scene, I'm like, wow. I have to say though, that scene went on for so long though, and I was really scared for him though. I'm not saying it's not bad that the scene was long or anything, but the fact that he kept pursuing the adversary made me really worried for him. I was like, dude, just give up. But I loved it. I liked that they had that long scene with him because it made me again care for the character by the end of the movie. Then you have Michelle Brianna White as Detective Regina Moss. I believe these people are detectives. They're either just cops or detectives. She plays Regina Moss, and again, she does great. Like from the beginning to the end, she does. When she shows up, she does a good job as like the skeptical, um, smart talking detective. So she's good. In a way, this movie is kind of like a slow burn. It's like a weird slow burn where it starts out as, aside from that, like that beginning with that sci-fi twist, with that sci-fi element, it starts out as like this slow horror movie, like or standard horror movie, but then then it becomes like this full campy horror movie. And I like how he did that that twist in a way, and it kind of is a good juxtaposition for Madison and the vision she receiving. Like as you know, more and more of the visions are unveiled, more and more about what's happening in the story and the characters is revealed. And it might be like a duh thing, but I liked how he James Wan. I like how he connected that. Um, the story's progression with Madison's visions. Maybe that's just like an obvious thing that he would do, but I really liked it. Now back to James Wan. Again, I didn't know he was capable of doing something like this, and honestly, I would love to see more directors take a risk with this movie. Unfortunately, Malignant, I don't believe really is doing well in the box office, and part of that I think is because it's on HBO Max. But I'm not sure if it would have done. I'm not really sure how it would have done if there wasn't a pandemic and if it wasn't day and date on streaming. It probably would have helped more if it wasn't day and date on streaming, but I don't know how it would have been if there wasn't a pandemic. Still though, I hope more and more people end up watching this movie because it is well worth the watch, I think. But you really do have to come in it with an open mind. You can't really be like a negative Nancy, when you're watching this movie. Now that's my review. Overall, enjoyed it. I think it's one of my favorite horror movies. Yeah, one of my favorite horror movies. Like definitely like top 3 horror movies, and the Conjuring movies are up in there. So other than that, I want to actually talk a little bit more about this movie, kind of get into an aspect that I'm noticing in horror films. So I plan on doing like a commentary video on Malignant and comparing it with The Babadook and this horror movie on Netflix called Aftermath. It was actually while I was watching Aftermath that made me think about the connections between those 3 films, namely with women in horror and how playing with their minds is an aspect that is used within, to really get like a good horror movie. So there's gonna be like a part 2-ish of this where I really get into like spoilers of Malignant and compare it between those other 2 movies. So look forward to that sometime next week. Make sure to follow me on social media so you can know when it does drop. That is the end of my Malignant review, though. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. If you have had the chance to check it out, let me know what you think. And other than that, have a great day, guys. Thanks again. Bye.